All right, everyone, we have the very first New Hampshire Dem primary poll. Technically speaking, we also have one from the middle of last year. That doesn't really count. Anything that's not post-midterms, you shouldn't even be included in the aggregate, and you only have these two polls. Firstly, be very cautious when analyzing one-off polls, even if you do technically have another. They don't give you the real number. They can give you a trajectory if you've got multiple polls. Otherwise, they can only give you a scatter shot. So some of those numbers are not actually representative of reality, and you have to understand when you're looking at a state like New Hampshire, you can't necessarily extrapolate those numbers to other states. Should there be a Dem primary, of course, if Joe Biden announces that he intends to run, and he hasn't done that so far, and neither, by the way, has anyone else in the field that's being considered here. Link in the description. You can look at this and follow along for yourself. I'll be doing it verbatim, so don't worry. None of these people have announced, but if Biden does, some people stand down simply because he is the incumbent. They will, effectively, they'll sigh and blow for Joe, which is what they'll have to do, because then they're like, oh shit, well, our candidate for the 2024 general election is geriatric, meandering, has no clue where he is some of the time, can't really run a national campaign, hell, he barely did the fucking last time, and he's going to have 4 more years of aging in between, can't really keep up the energy, doesn't really have a lot to run on that isn't just basically fodder for the Dem partisans anyway. There's not much else there to talk about. He can't talk about any aspect of his foreign policy. But he hasn't yet announced whether he intends to run or not. He keeps cryptically saying, well, I expect to run. That is meaningless. That's lawyer speak. Trump engaged in this too until more recently when he officially decided to run. Bolton is the only other person of either party that has officially decided that they're running for the presidency in 24. Now, we'll look at the numbers. They are quite interesting. And these are UNH polls, so University of New Hampshire. Buttigieg is in first place with 23% share. Biden is second place with 18, tied with Elizabeth Warren. So they're tied for second. Third is Bernie Sanders, running at 15. Occasional Cortex is then after them at 6. Klobuchar at 5. Harris at 2. And Gavin Newsom and Warnock each at 1. Now, I wouldn't expect that Warnock would be interested in running. He's a sitting senator. He's probably got a reasonably safe position now that he's clinched that extra term. He's got 6 years to go. I don't think that Warnock gets in particularly. I don't know that Klobuchar, I mean, if Biden runs, Klobuchar stands down. Even if he doesn't, Klobuchar might sit it out. She's just not a heavy hitter enough. In the absence of Biden, I would favor Buttigieg to run. He then has a problem, and it's the same problem in reverse that someone like Ocasio-Cortez has. He has a fairly strong center-left bulwark. Center-left independents, corporate neoliberals would like Buttigieg. He ticks one grievance box off, but not too many. So he's not a minority in 5 or 6 different ways, which scares the lily-white neoliberal forces, just to be clear. But he is gay. So they say, well, you know, that's progress enough. A little bit of progress, a little bit of spice on the food, a couple dashes of pepper. I think that a pickle can be seen wandering through this gruel here. That'll give it a whole kick of flavor. Yeehaw. That's basically how the neolibs are. For the left, and that's represented here by Sanders, Ocasio-Cortez, and to an extent by Warren. That's like the missing link, you know, kind of sort of left. They have the same problem, which is that you only appeal to a core of the party. It's the far left. Buttigieg is hated by their fans. They're hated by the sort of people that would like Buttigieg. And here you have Biden potentially running anyway, but he's in second place in both polls, by the way, for the New Hampshire primary. I wonder why they decided to change the primary order in case he decides to run. By the way, South Carolina presumptively now is going for first. That's Biden and Harris territory. It's to make them look good should there be a presidential run by either of them. It is definitely a way to try to create a dynastic power structure, by the way. They're not doing it because of diversity or, you know, times have changed. New Hampshire is no longer representative of the population's mean, median, and mode, so we need to change. No, it's for political reasons, just to be clear. Even if the change is, by the way, apt if you look at demographics. What happens is you have Biden. Let's say he runs. He's in second place to his transport secretary. Well, that says just goddamn great things from the swing state of New Hampshire about Biden and his credibility. Just simply a wonderful, stunning endorsement of him. His VP, who would become heir apparent if he doesn't run, is not even in the top 5. She's at 2%. What was she in the first poll, by the way? Yeah, she was at 6% in that one. She was in roughly the same position. She's at Ocasio-Cortez levels. Bernie Sanders is supplanting you. Now, between him and Ocasio-Cortez and a few others, you only have about a quarter of the party. I mean, they can't field a candidate. The progressives would lose in the primary. Biden and Buttigieg voters are more overlapped than theirs would be. Warren, if she ran at all, would endorse the neoliberal over the far leftist. She's never going to switch that allegiance because it wouldn't make her as much money. The writing is on the wall. You will have a neoliberal candidate for the presidency from the Democratic Party. We're just not sure which neoliberal. By the way, the Newsom meme appears to have dropped off a cliff because he can only break a point or two. Just to be clear, Gavin Newsom is nowhere near as strong a potential candidate as some people think. You'd be more likely to see a shock dark horse in Hakeem Jeffries than you would be to see Gavin Newsom get the nod. You'd be more likely to see fucking Whitmer decide to mount a run. Just like in the GOP, DeSantis meme aside, and that one's blowing up at the moment, most of the potential candidates, Pompeo, Bolton, Haley, don't stand a chance in hell. They're irrelevant. They'll pull a couple of points. They'll write a book deal. They'll make $1 million selling copies of their book to the communist Chinese or something like that. Mike Pence is basically the only one with a political pulse. And he's Mike Pence. He's incapable of carrying the party forward. But you could have a dark horse like a Youngkin candidacy. You could have somebody like that. You could end up with DeSantis running, although again, I think that he leans against doing so because I don't think that he's as gung-ho for the potentially politically disastrous fight that would result as people that want him to be the candidate. I think he is much more cautious than the people clearly and carefully trying to astroturf him, just to be clear at this time. So, I mean, this poll's nuts. The sitting incumbent can't even break 20 points and is losing against his own transport secretary. His VP's in 6th place. Their other heir apparent, Newsom, barely has any pulse whatsoever, barely any support. The goddamn transport secretary is your frontrunner in New Hampshire. What the hell does this say about the disarray of the Democratic Party? And you've got Sanders, who is in his goddamn mid-80s already. He's still managing to con 15% of the Democrats into supporting him. Meanwhile, it shows that the old far left still has some clout because the new far left, envisioned by Cortez or Warnock, combined only get half as many points as he does. Not that they wouldn't smash him up altogether. If they had a viable candidate, they'd solidify behind them, but you're not going to get one. You don't have enough votes. Between Buttigieg and Biden alone, that's 40%. Well, that's insurmountable for a far-left candidate. You're not going to get 30. So the writing is on the wall. Official sticks prediction number 1. And number 2, it's a shakeup looking at these numbers. It's vastly different from, I think, the focus of the National Party itself and like the story it wants to tell about how the Dems are functioning right now. That's about all. Peace out.